It's all heating up in the mobile software space, with Google and Apple battling it out for a space in your pocket. Both are pretty big departures from their previous iterations, and that could genuinely mean something for your next smartphone purchase and decision that you make. So let's talk about that. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and I have been enjoying playing around with iOS 26 and Android 16. Both in their respective beta builds right now. Neither are perfect, and that's why they are in development after all, and haven't been pushed out to the general public. But I think there's enough here for a serious comparison, and that's something that I haven't thought to do in a very long time, so that alone should be an indicator for just how big these upgrades are. By the way guys, really trying to hit 500,000 subs, so if you wouldn't mind hitting that button, really help us out. Thank you very much. Both of these pieces of software are clearly taking a new road when it comes to design. That's the big ticket change here. There's an overhaul, but they are going down pretty different avenues, with one aiming to look slick, sleek and stylish, and the other making bolder, more intentional moves with a stylized look that certainly brightens up the OS. We're 3 betas deep into iOS 26, a naming scheme that's gonna still take some getting used to, and the liquid glass aesthetic, something that's been heavily linked to Windows Aero, and I really cannot unsee Windows 7 here, has been toned down somewhat to address readability concerns that beta testers have had in earlier builds. So when pulling down the quick settings or notification shade, you can actually see far more of the foreground items than before. I don't think this takes away from the aesthetic or style, but it certainly makes it feel more frosted glass than liquid glass. And this is with reduced transparency turned off, by the way. That's the default option in the settings. You could toggle it on to add even more readability, but I'm not sure it's really needed now. And yeah, they brought back the old camera app icon, which I find absolutely brilliant, and I'm glad we have back. It's only a surface level change, but something that interests me. Android 16 in QPR goes the opposite direction with a distinctly bold approach that doesn't shy away from contrast and pop, basically just the complete opposite. This not only makes UI items far easier to see without any need of a reduced transparency button, but from the settings app to the quick settings to the notification shades to the customization menus, it's all very intentional and helps you pick out what you're looking for from a list really easily. But arguably the best part of the Android 16 beta, in my opinion at least, is the dedicated desktop mode that Google looks to be building to rival Samsung DeX. This is something I've been asking for some time now, I'm sure most of you know that, so I'm really excited about this feature. And essentially, with the right adapter and a keyboard and mouse, you can hook your Pixel up to a display and use it like a mini desktop computer. This might not be the most insane feature for everyone, it is kind of niche, but the amount of times that DeX has saved me, sure, hasn't been loads, but when it has, it's made a massive difference. So yeah, carrying around a little dongle in my bag, just for something like this, I don't mind doing at all. I love the idea of a little pocket computer, something that would usually sit in your pocket anyway, that you can take out and turn into something bigger. I'm sure that's going to be useful for more than just me. It's still in its infancy on the Pixel and requires enabling developer settings and then rebooting the device every time you want to enter and exit desktop mode, which is kind of annoying, but again, it's in beta, so hopefully we'll see a more polished option later in the year. Both iOS 26 and Android 16 and 3E have adopted a sort of physics engine or something of the like. You see it a lot more in iOS, but you actually feel it a lot more in Android. So you'll notice on the iPhone that almost every action has some sort of specialist animation of some kind. A swoop, a fade, something like that. Everything has a bit of flair to it. Whereas on the Pixel, swiping and tapping provide more haptic feedback that feels, I'd say, more natural and in line with what's happening on the screen. But of course, this sort of thing is subjective, and you might prefer one over the other. I like where both of these are going, though it does have me slightly concerned about where this could go for battery drain, and in particular with the Pixel that isn't really known for having absolutely stellar longevity in the first place. It's clearly going to take more processing power to run these things, to drive these slick animations and run the vibration motor. Lock screen customization has been a bit of a focus in this set of updates. In Wallpaper Studio on Android 16, live effects can now be used on your background photos, so you can add shape cutouts, you can adjust the color theming, you can even apply weather effects to your wallpapers and lock screen to make them in general just a lot more interesting. You can even use cinematic mode to add depth to images that might not already have that, making for some pretty interesting looking wallpapers. On the iOS side for the lock screen, the widgets and the adjustments are maybe arguably a bit less gimmicky and a little bit more useful and meaningful, which interestingly goes against sort of the grain of the rest of the updates, where I feel like Android M3E is the more intentional, the more useful. But anyway, I like the way we can adjust the iOS lock screen now with quite a bit more going on, and I really can't wait for Google to announce a robust lock screen widget system built straight into the out-of-the-box software. iOS has seen some quality of life improvements that have, funnily enough, come straight from Android. A call screening, which I know some Pixel users absolutely swear by, is going to be here with iOS 26, and even more hilariously, estimated charge times are finally here. Hello? Android 5.0 wants its headline feature back. Yeah, this one's kind of hard to wrap your head around, but in 2026, iOS finally lets you see how long it's going to be until your battery is fully charged. What does all of this mean for us, the consumers, or those of us looking to potentially buy the next version of the Pixel and the iPhone? Well, I think these updates are about as exciting as they get because it's all user-facing. It's not fundamental under-the-hood changes, which we usually get in the first half of the year. These are things that you're going to see and interact with more often. I've seen a lot of hate for iOS 26 and I'm not entirely sure that's warranted, to be honest, though I feel like personally M3E is the better, the more impressive, the more expressive update. Probably should have guessed that from the name. It's highly likely that the next generation hardware from both Apple and Google will ship with the final versions of these consumer builds. Hopefully a bit more polished with no issues, though recent software from other companies has seen a bit of an iffy twist this year, so hopefully we don't run into anything like that. I think it's quite obvious that my stance on this is M3E is the bigger change and the one I'm most excited for, but iOS 26 does deserve its own merit for being new and fresh. Here's one for you though. Is the reason that these big companies are doing these massive software overhauls and redesigns is to try and upsell maybe uninspiring hardware this year? Based on the rumors and leaks, it doesn't look like we're going to be getting massive upgrades on either side, so is the software simply there to sell more units? Just food for thought there. I'm excited to see where this all takes us with this super cool and actually noticeable upgrades for once with the software. Hopefully it will make for more unique and personalized experiences even without any additional software mods. But I have to give an answer, and for me, Android 16 M3E just has to take the crown. Guys, what are your thoughts on these quite frankly controversial changes to both Android and iOS? Do you think the new Apple naming scheme is awkward? And do you feel like M3E will make you switch to a Google Pixel phone even if the hardware might not be at the level that you want? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section because it certainly has me thinking about switching to an iron Pro. Let's start the Android police discussion in the comments, and whilst you're down there, be sure to hit like if you enjoyed today's content, and of course subscribe to never miss another upload. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I will catch you later. Cheers.